All right, we have a couple seats up front if anyone's looking for a final spot, but we're gonna kick off. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I hope you all had a chance to check out some of our demo companies, grab a drink, mingle. We are so excited to be back in Chicago. I'm Hannah Jennings, the event organizer for Tech in Motion, and I am thrilled to welcome you all here tonight. For those of you who have been involved in the community for a while, you know our goal has always been centered around bringing together the tech community to share ideas, connect, innovate, and really discuss the most pressing IT topics of the day, and that is exactly what we're gonna do here tonight. For those of you who have been keeping up with Tech in Motion over the last several months, you know that we recently celebrated our 2024 Timmy Awards, recognizing the top workplaces, managers, and teams across North America. And today we have some of the finalists and judges here with us to discuss everything that makes their tech cultures so great. In just a moment, you'll hear from a few of these exceptional finalists and judges from Spot Hero, Made in Tandem, Granger, about how they're building strong tech teams, and hopefully they'll inspire you. These are all qualities that earned them Timmy Award finalist status, and for today's AMA session, you'll get to pick their brains. So the first half will be based off of questions you all pre-submitted when you registered, and then the second half will let you guys dive deeper into live audience Q&A. So before we hand it off to our panel, I am excited to welcome Max from Motion Recruitment. He's gonna give a bit more insight into the state of hiring.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome once again to Tech in Motion. We're just so glad everyone can join us and celebrate some of the top companies, IT managers the industry has to offer. I've made my rounds for a lot of people, but if I haven't met you yet, I'm Max. I'm our head of our Chicago Motion office and the founders of Tech in Motion. For over a decade now, Tech in Motion and Motion Recruitment have been putting on events like this across North America, just giving technologists a place to meet, learn, grow. Bringing together like-minded people like yourself with a passion in the IT industry it's just a thrill, and we're honored that you guys could celebrate with us tonight. For anyone looking to take their next step in the tech career, or a hiring manager struggling to fill a highly specialized tech role, colleagues and I are from Motion are here to help. So head to our booth after this, and happy to chat about just the IT industry trends, or talk about any sort of roles, or what you're looking for next out of your next career. And as many of you know, building successful tech teams can be really challenging, especially just during these times. Creating a culture where everyone can be not only their most productive self, but also their true self can be daunting. However, our speakers have been able to accomplish that very thing. So I'll get right into it. I think we're all ready for this panelist. So let's give a warm welcome to our panel as they share some tips on creating a successful tech working environment. Fouad Boussaton, Brian Suarez, and JC Grubbs. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. I like walking while talking. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are super excited to host this panel discussion along with Tech in Motion. Great. Thank you for Tech in Motion team for putting this together. Today, panel discussion, we will be discussing very exciting topics around how to build best-in-class team, how to foster a culture of innovation, and the most important topic will be how generative AI is going to change the course of our day-to-day work, and how the transformative power of this technology is going to impact the future of workplace. We are joined today by two talented panelists. We have Brian from Spot Hero, as well as we have JC from Made in Tandem. Before I hand it over to them, I would like, maybe I didn't introduce myself. Fouad Boussaton, I am Director of Innovation, Machine Learning, Generative AI at Granger. Also, I am a faculty at the University of Chicago teaching cool stuff, generative AI, and multimodal machine learning. Without further ado, I will hand it over to start with Brian. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us more about who you are, what do you do, and what excites you the most about innovation and leadership?
Brian Suarez, IT manager at Spot Hero. Chicago native. I've lived here my whole life, in various parts of the city. I have 2 beagles at home. I'm a lifelong musician. I got into IT at a very young age, but I have a really strong passion for helping folks use safe and secure technologies so that way, they can get their job done. What excites me about innovation? I think that, we've seen this emergence of AI and machine learning. I do think that from the IT realm, there's many opportunities for automation and for security. Now, the exciting part is working with people and having people's ideas actually take full effect when they're in the workplace or when they're working on projects. I get very excited working with people's ideas.
JC Grubbs, I'm the founder and CEO at Made in Tandem. We're a software consulting firm. We build custom software for enterprises, fintech, utility companies, government agencies, mostly working on open source technologies. I'd say what excites me the most about innovation. I would say also that how technology touches people. I think at the end of the day, almost every business and tech problem boils down at some point to a people problem. So.
That's great answers. Innovation is always exciting because, we don't have a choice. Innovation is not a choice, it's a necessity. For companies, for businesses, we have to innovate and think out of the box and to drive business values. We will start with the first topic of this conversation, which is how to build best-in-class team. What is the best culture to enforce to make sure all team members are valued, they are driving bigger impact on the larger scale? Also, what are some of the key strategies to make sure you hire the right folks with the right culture fit? The first question is, what strategies or programs has your company introduced to support diversity and inclusion? We can start to...
Yeah,
okay,
so
ahead,
at Spot Hero, I think one of the things that I think is wonderful is we have an opportunity to have employee resource groups. These groups, kind of help bring awareness to the diversity at Spot Hero. So we have groups like Women at Spot Hero. We have the Neurodiversity group. We also have First Generation, which I'm a part of. I have both of my parents were immigrants. We also have Blacks at Spot Hero. And so we have ally mentorship programs and things that people can get involved with. So then that way they can kind of learn about the people that they're working with. They're not just working with them all the time. In terms of recruitment, I think that when it comes to culture fit, it's really difficult to find, people to express their passion as what they want. Sometimes when, we're conducting interviews over Zoom, it's difficult to kind of break that barrier between the computer and the person. And I think that asking the right questions and allowing people to kind of open up and talk a little bit about themselves, they feel more safe to work for that employer. So.
Same question.
Yeah, I would say for us on the hiring side, as a consulting company where our people are our product in some ways, it's really important for us to hire both for technical competency as well as all of the soft skills. So we place a lot of premium on folks that are, empathetic and resilient and have improvisational skills and kindness, all those things that kind of make projects actually work at the end of the day, outside of the technical side. And I think by focusing on those things a little bit, diversity sort of kind of naturally happens. It will reduce some of those barriers. I think the other thing for us has always been having some diversity at the leadership side of things. If you're very uniform at the top, that doesn't send a great signal for the rest of the team.
Okay, great. My second question is, how does your approach to hiring contribute to building strong and collaborative team? Especially we live in an era where post-COVID, we have a hybrid team members. Some of them are locally working in person, others are working remotely. What's the trade-off there between the hiring and required skill set, and what drives pretty much creation and building strong culture and strong team?
Well, I guess I could say, when you're thinking about a team, you want to have, diversity and strengths. even though people are maybe not working in person with you, they may be able to offer some contributions remotely. I think that, yes, obviously, COVID has changed the landscape of recruiting. It's made it very difficult to find candidates that do want fully remote, or that they want hybrid, or they want, in person. And I think organizations are struggling with that right now. But I'm not sure. It's difficult to say. JC, I'm not sure if you have any.
I'm gonna stop turning my microphone on and off. I'm doing this thing that you do on Zoom calls where you're like muting yourself, but I'm doing it up here.
Don't keep
So
yourself
I'm
muted.
gonna not do that anymore. I think I actually really don't think industry-wide we're very settled from the pandemic. I think there's still a lot of hangover from that, and you see companies struggling with hybrid and mandates for back in office, and I actually think the thing that people want is a breadth of choice. And so what really needs to happen in the long term is a maturity of organizations to be able to provide employees with the best working modality for their situation. And we've had people that have done the van life thing. We've had people that have moved away closer to family and wanted to come back. And so that flexibility is something that I don't think industry-wide we've really figured out yet.
Yeah, that make a lots of sense. Like everybody's navigating pretty much what are some key policies to enforce, like locally, to make sure team members are effective, are contributing, in the meantime connected to each other. And that's a segue to my next question: is how to ensure like in-person team members and hybrid or remote team members are connecting and working and exciting, especially like human to human and in-person interaction adds up more, like emotional intelligence help to solve problems faster, whiteboarding sessions, for example.
I mean, this is something that I think I've been challenged with my whole IT career. I think, I worked at a university for a while, and there's a huge emphasis on academic technologies. But those academic technologies were for people who were there, right? And these professors and these students, they were comfortable with being able to just go into class and actually be able to see the content and things like that. Well, now at Spot Hero, we have 3 different offices. We're in Toronto, we're in New York, and we're in Chicago. But then there are a lot of our leaders and a lot of our individual contributors that work from home. So one of the things that the IT team at Spot Hero is tasked with is finding continuity with all of the technology. Now, budget-wise, it's difficult to invest in these technologies, but what we've been able to see is a return on investment with equity within the employees. We survey these remote employees on a quarterly basis and a frequent basis to say, is this working for you? Like, are you actually feeling that you're contributing to these meetings? You brought up the whiteboard thing, right? There are a lot of technologies, and we know the one that starts with Z has given us a lot of, Zoom has been trying to get into that space and be the leader in it. But really, when it comes down to it, it's listening to those people, asking questions and saying, does this work? Because if it doesn't, let's make some changes. So it's been really tough. It's not easy.
I think experimentation is something that every company should do. I think we're not afraid to get a little gimmicky sometimes with like things on Slack and donut chats and all that kind of tools that kind of help keep us together. But the foundational thing that we've done since day one, back when we were all in person, is an all-team stand-up with everybody in the company. We're not a huge organization, 30 to 50 people. And we've kept doing that all the way through the remote pandemic. And today we don't do it every day, but it's at least twice a week. You get to see everybody, whether you speak or not. And just that one 15-minute, 20-minute face-to-face where there's no agenda, it's not a meeting, is really, I think, important for cohesion, and more companies should do that.
Absolutely.
Yep, that makes sense. Just to add some thoughts on this is there is no science behind what's the right approach. It's not like written on rocks. However, there are some processes in place that we can enforce to reduce uncertainty, how team members are engaging with each other. Whiteboarding tools is one of them. Another maybe initiative is like all hands-on, where team members, they can fly from different locations and meet in person. I strongly believe when you before we work together and like align on our like mental model, we have to connect as people. It's very, very important. With that, like we mentioned whiteboarding, we mentioned Zoom, there are other tools. Like, do you have like a dedicated budget to invest? I'm gonna put you on spot.
No, that's
yeah.
fine. That's yeah.
To invest in making sure like the hybrid ecosystem is checked and it's tracked and everybody is excited, and tools to make sure everybody is productive and contributed and measured.
To answer your question, yes, but it wasn't that way, right? So before COVID, before this fully hybrid remote, I don't think that the leaders had buy-in in knowing that technology can actually help engage people, right? They didn't feel it. But when we went to COVID and, you know, your chief people officer, your chief financial officer says, my webcam is so bad, I can't see this person, I can't talk to them, I can't, this is, I said, maybe we can spend some more money, get a little bit better technology for you so you can have better meetings. So definitely, I think that, you know, as an organization, if any of you out there, you know, lead people or lead, you know, workplaces, you should think about asking those questions. I mean, really, you look at the cost of how much technology costs, office technology, and when you think about, you know, kind of the, like I said, the equity of it, it really does pay off, because everybody likes bells and whistles, but when it comes down to the meetings, when everybody can contribute because they live in the van life or they're in a completely different state, their voice is heard, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I would say I agree. Don't skimp on those things from a budget perspective. Give people all the tools that are possible. Don't create any barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. And investing in people, investing in like more optimal work environment will have huge ROI for sure. That was great. Let's shift gears to another topic. It's about like leadership, innovation, and performance. And now with AI and some of the research problems are becoming more or less engineering problems, which opens doors to more possibilities, endless possibilities toward innovation. And innovation starts with spark thinking, starts with a culture. It like some folks, they have it organically. Some team members, they have to be enforced to think critically, and the way everybody should live in the problem space. Question here is how your company create like a culture that supports continuous learning and career development under the scope of innovation, where like team members, they feel like they are growing as professionals and as like
So, yeah, I can speak. I mean, our company, we have about 250 some people. I'm going to speak on the context of engineering because that's the department that I work in. So one of the things that we implemented is something called a discovery day, right? So everybody has their tasks and their work that they need to do. We all have businesses we need to run. But when you're an individual contributor and you're working on a team, sometimes the day can get out of control and you don't feel like you have the time to work on yourself. So in terms of innovation, what we do with Discovery Days is we allow people to pick something that they'd like to learn. Do they want to go on Udemy or LinkedIn Learning and learn something new, a new innovative technology that will help them? Or simply it's a tool or a language, or maybe it's, you know, a wellness thing to help them become, you know, a better person. And so as a manager, I tell my team, you are going to carve out, you know, 4 hours a week where you're going to contribute in your Discovery Day. You don't need to report on it. It's measurable for the individual person. So then that way they feel that there is some way for them to advance and to find better innovative ways to grow professionally. So that's one thing. We do have, you know, professional learning tools and things like that, and we have, you know, mentorship programs and things that allow people to kind of think differently about how they do their job. So,
Yeah, I think similarly, the one-size-fits-all professional development program of large enterprises just doesn't work anymore. Maybe it never worked. So for us as well, it's very self-driven. We provide a budget for everybody every year. It fluctuates based on if the company wants to invest in certifications and things that year, but everybody gets some money to spend, some time to invest in it, and we try very hard to align it with actual opportunity for application. So it's not just learning for the sake of learning, but there's actually something to put your hands into on the other side of the training.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when we talk about innovation, not necessarily we refer to reinventing the wheel. It's more of like how to find creative way of solving business problems, because it boils down to feasibility. Like we can like think of the most complex solution, but if it's not feasible, we can do it. That's where we have a cycle of re-innovation, or how to repurpose what exists out there. And nowadays, you mentioned open source technologies. There are plenty of things out there. It is just overwhelming. What tools to use, how to use it, for what problem, etc. And I strongly believe there are ways to power the critical thinking. For example, providing team members with, for example, 10% of their time spend on like indirected work, doing some research, work on something that excites you the most. Engineers and scientists are, especially in the software and the AI sectors and fields, like everybody's so curious. Like don't bound their curiosity. Let them dream and just explore, and there will be an ROI tied to it. And that's another segue to my next question. You have something to add on?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that's true, but I think you do ultimately have to tie it back to some company mission.
Correct.
I think the balance is staying undirected, but aligned with some value that is going to add to the client base or the company, et cetera.
Correct. It depends on the cycle of innovation. Like some companies, they like top-to-down strategy, align with like corporate vision, aligned with senior leadership, and that's how you direct your indirected work. Versus some other companies, mostly tech companies, they are like bottom to the top, where engineers drive the innovative or the innovation scope, even a product scope of the company. Very simple example: Apple is on the top to down, like product driven, versus Google is bottom to the top. Engineers drive the innovation. My next question is, what innovative methods do you use to recognize and reward high performance or high performing teams?
Well, I feel that everybody has different learning styles, and everyone has kind of a different perspective of what is a reward. And some people have, monetary rewards, or they feel that, there's ways that they can kind of change, but some people aren't always like that. I mean, there is ways to reward a teammate without money, but also it's giving them an opportunity to work on something that may actually impact the product. It's not giving them more work, it's giving that person a perspective that, the contributions that you've done now allow you to kind of move up. And I find that it helps, but I don't think that it's easy to understand what motivates people, because there are a lot of senior level engineers or people that are kind of towards the end of their career journey, and they just feel like they want to make a difference. So that's kind of what I found, at least, at Spot Hero. But
Yep.
I don't know, JC, if you have.
Yeah, I think it's, I feel like I'm going to repeat the same answer. It really depends, and recognition is one of those things that's very personal to people, how you receive it and how you give it. And so being sensitive to, is this person going to respond to me dropping something in Slack for the whole company to say, hey, kudos on that thing that you did? Or is that a way of recognition that just isn't going to be well received? So I think having sensitivity to recognition and how people take that in is really valuable for a manager to know. But I think recognition is kind of a driving force for any culture. If you're not recognizing people for the work they're doing, you're not signaling to the people that aren't doing that work the things that they should be doing. So it's a really good way to reinforce your company values.
Yeah, definitely. And we, with our company values, we have enjoy the ride, which is something to say, just like have fun and try to just really, don't worry about all of the things that you have to do. Just try to focus on what's good. And I 100% agree with you that, the reward can be difficult. I try to kind of talk to people directly and say, how straight, kind of direct, like how would you like to be acknowledged for what you've done? Because you've done a lot of great work. and sometimes they don't have an answer, and you have to figure out, what would be the best for them. So.
Yeah, that make a lot of sense. And just like based on my experience, one way that team members they appreciate a lot is the recognition is like embedded within their like career growth. Give them exposure. Let them present their work in front of senior leadership. It is a huge non-tangible recognition, but it helps them a lot to understand where they are at and what level they're contributing to the bigger mission of the company. It could be monetary value too.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's where we have a job for, is to make money.
Okay, cool. My other question under the same umbrella of leadership and innovation. How do you balance or find like that like fine line between innovative ideas and what qualifies for a product?
So in the IT world, operation stability is key. Like it's one of those things that it's difficult to take risks on, right? And I'm always kind of challenged to say, I found this great SaaS company or this tool that is going to save us so much time, but it's going to take 2 years to implement. And the innovation is kind of a risk. I see it as a risk-based thing. Now, I think that if you want to innovate, you have to be able to have people buy into your ideas. I mean, everybody has great ideas, but if you're not able to make sense of it, then that innovation may be wasted, and that's not going to look good on anybody, whether it's the system or the tool that you're trying to implement or the people that you've asked to contribute to that change. So, JC, I don't know how you're...
Can you refine the question slightly?
Yeah, my question is, how do you balance like pursuing new innovative ideas with ensuring product quality, or like what qualifies like as let's embed this innovation or innovative idea within our product development?
I think that's really comes down to the business's tolerance for risk around anything. It's like how much risk are we willing to tolerate, and the time horizon, like you mentioned. If you're looking at something that's not going to have a payoff for 2 years, that's a really high and risky investment.
Okay.
And I think that should trickle down to all the decisions that an engineering team is going to make on trade-offs for delivery. MVP all the way to I want the brass ring of all the features. Those types of decisions get calibrated based on time and risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you kind of mentioned kind of the contrast between, Apple and Google, kind of two big companies, and, you have this top down and you have the bottom up, right? But if you think about those companies when they started and, being a founder and, saying that this is going to be a company, you said, it's where do you make that risk? And that in being looked at or being regarded as an innovator. I mean, it's difficult. I think it does come through the culture, right? So it has to be, and that's why I was saying like buy-in, like, if you're making the decisions for, to have that return on whatever decision you make, if your peers don't agree with you, you're going to have an uphill battle. But with persuasion or with data, you may be able to say, this is going to pay us off. This will pay off. Yep. So it is kind of difficult, I would say.
What I have heard from both of you pretty much, you have to be more pragmatic or more like process-driven when it comes to innovation, and innovation should never like interfere with life cycle development of product or fulfill the commitment to the business, because I'm not sure how you experience that, but business partners sometimes they are not like patient. Like they want.
But
this,
they
want AI and this magic box to work like
now. I think
now it worked yesterday.
Yes, yesterday.
And another thing to mention before like hand it over to you. Beside like impatience, also there should be some level of raise the awareness as well, like upward, like downward as well. Like we have to be innovative, but to what extent take the risk?
I think if you're rushing to get a feature out and it's existential to your business, then you have bigger problems. So, like, I think in some ways, we use the word innovation a lot because it's fun, but at the end of the day, it's sort of just the idea of like putting new ideas out into the market and seeing whether they work, which is really not that fancy of an activity. But so, you know, calibrating risk and investment, and I think the bigger thing for me always is how do we organize a team that's going to be able to implement that? Execution is key.
Makes sense. Be more cautious, right? Don't drastically like steer the
Balance.
wheel and go down like chasing after like some new trends that could be risky. I have a question to the audience. How many engineers, software engineers, we have in the room? How many business leaders we have in the room? Question for the engineers: like, how many times you have heard our business leader, business partners come to you telling you can apply generative AI for this business case? Here we are doing solutioning. We hear lots of business partners start from the solution to the problem. That's not the healthy cycle, but that's the ecosystem we are living in, right? Do you have any thoughts on like how to help business partners pretty much to live in the problem space? It's okay to be excited about technologies, but that shouldn't interfere a lot with expertise of engineers and throw solutions at the engineers that can end up with like suboptimal
Pretty simple
technologies.
You know, 5 whys, right? Like why is this technology important to you? You know, why do you think this is going to solve the problem? At my organization, we've always taken a very conservative approach to new and shiny things. There's almost always a simpler solution to it. And if you're building on a foundation of a bunch of simple solutions, then you're much more informed to make a big buy into something like an LLM or
Yeah.
those types
And
of
that's like
investments.
you mentioned LLM, and that's our next topic. I think most of the audience are excited about. We'll be discussing more or less like the generative AI, and recently with the huge like explosion of AI and generative AI and the possible impact on the business. There are some use cases out there that are proven, but it's still to some extent risky to leverage like a black box and put it in front of customers for different use case. For example, assisting customers, selling product to customers. And the question here is, beside like thinking of use cases, I will get started with some strategy and governance. How do you like your company evaluate emerging technologies? Is there like a core function for it, or it happened organically, or it's business-driven need? That's how you pretty much start evaluating some technology or emerging or disruptive technologies. Part of it is Gen AI and LLMs.
Well, in that particular example, it's shiny, it's new, and people are like, let's think about, instead of it being something to solve the problem, it will say, let's find something to solve with this. No, you don't work backwards in that way. But in particular for IT and in the engineering department, I would say we are kind of more of like a, well, it depends on which stage your organization is. If you're a Series A and you got 40 million that you just got, you can go and buy everything that you want. But if you are, kind of towards the Series D and you've got these very brilliant engineers or these business leaders that have proven to know what they're doing, then you're going to build something instead of buy it. But I think that my approach and what I've done in terms of like, I care a lot about, supply chain risk and making sure, our vendors are tested and good before we go out and buy something or we go and explore it is I get buy-in from the organization. I talk about, if somebody comes to me and says, we need to get this thing because it's going to help this, I'm going to kind of think about it. Well, can we talk about it a little bit more before, we go forward with it? So a conservative way, kind of like what you're saying, you do have to be that way, but it kind of depends on what stage of growth your organization is in.
Yeah, I think that's true too. I think there should be some budget for, we just want to blue sky this, right? Like I just want to go tinker with a tool. To get a sense for the shape of it and what it can do, but I also think that needs to be really balanced with the pragmatism of what's worked and what's going to be maintainable. I think a lot about when we're talking about our clients and we're making tech decisions on their behalf, are they going to be able to maintain this thing? Are they going to have the right staff in place with the right skill sets, et cetera? And that longer view, I think, can sometimes shift you towards a simpler, less shiny object solution.
Yeah, and I think brand names, they stand out a lot more, right? And you look at the big players or the ones that are a little bit more expensive. Perfect example, right? I mean, if you're a small organization and you don't really have a big IT budget, but you want all the most expensive Apple products, it's going to be kind of difficult to push that. Whereas you can get some PCs and you can actually make the same results with different technologies. So,
Yeah, make absolute sense. And are like short on time. My last question for both of you. Then we will open the mic for the audience to ask questions. Generative AI is here, is mature. It's proven for some use cases, and it is set to pretty much be disruptive and change the way we live, the way we work, the way we operate daily on our daily basis. How do you see generative AI impacting our day-to-day work? And is there like a strategy from like Spot Hero to experiment, explore with this technology, and what does it mean for the overall future of the company?
I've had discussions with senior leadership and our chief technology officer about this topic, and we're very pragmatic about it. We're going to be very slow to it. I think that the parking industry is quite an old industry. It's been around since the cars. Actually, in Vesuvius over in Pompeii, it was one of the first parking spaces ever, but it's an old industry. So, we're not really trying to reinvent the wheel with AI. I think that our strategy is start slow, staff people who are very, very well-versed, and allow them to kind of talk about the problems that can be solved, right? So specifically, we're not currently doing too much. We did make a hire recently, so we are on pace. I think a lot of our partners and some of our key clients are talking about it, and they want to be able to kind of see where it's going. But as being, kind of one of the parking leaders, I think we have an opportunity and an obligation to embrace it as it comes. So that's kind of all I know.
I have recently upgraded myself from an AI skeptic to an AI agnostic. So,
Congratulations.
I really think that there's so much hype, and I continue to hear people pitch things that AI is solving, and I can quickly find an alternate solution that's a lot simpler. It's not that AI is bad and it shouldn't be used for things. It's just, it's not the panacea. It really isn't. And I also think that there's a huge misconception between automation and intelligence, and what a lot of use cases are focused around is automation, and the intelligence part is really a separate question.
Yeah, the AI agnostic thing is very interesting thought there. And that's what I have been telling. I have the same mental model. When we start, we have a problem, we think about the problem, simulate potential solutions. We start always with the simplest way of solving a problem, because you can just adopt off-the-shelf model because you will have cost attached to it. It's still not cost effective and costs a lot of needs a lot of resources and talent as well to maintain it, to deploy it, and to scale it as well. That's why I like your concept of being agnostic and think first on what is the smallest solution or the easiest path to solve the problem that is acceptable from business perspective. Align on the accuracy with the business. For example, I can live 70% accurate. And there is, like you said, there is a line between automation and intelligence. Sometimes you don't need intelligence, but you need automation, and there are tools for it. With that, let's hand it over to Hannah.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna transition into some audience Q&A. So if you have a question for our panelists, feel free to throw up your hand and we'll try to get to as many as possible.
Hi, this is for JC. You mentioned open source. Are you contributing, consuming, and what? How are you using? Yeah, how are you leveraging open source in your company? I guess.
Yeah, we've been mostly Ruby and Python and JavaScript driven since founding in 2011. So we continue to do that. Certainly the big players, your .NETs and Javas of the world are still out there, but for the last 10 years, almost all of our client work has been in one of those languages, still flourishing.
Thanks.
We do contribute back occasionally. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, go for it.
This is for JC, what would take you from AI agnostic to AI enthusiast?
Well, I would like to see a big company do something more impactful than just throw a text box up that says, ask me anything. It's like, yeah, okay, but I'm the buyer. I don't want to think even about the question that I need to ask, right? Like, give me some guidance on this thing. I think that's a weak use case for AI, so that would turn me, you know? I think some of the stuff in the medical space is really, like, mind-blowing. The neuroscience space in particular.
So I've got a follow-up question to Raj's question in regards to, what are your guys' thoughts on government regulations around AI? Do you think we need to have it? And two, if we don't, where do you think AI would essentially end up, in our day-to-day lives?
I can say. To answer your question, do we need it? I think that's a very political question if regulation is required. But if we take a look at what Europe is doing, I think we need to rethink it, right? There needs to be some changes in the way that we understand regulation with AI. I personally think that we don't know enough on how an impact it can make on the public. I think that the corporations that create these, and I'm sure Fowd can attest to this, is that when you pump money into something, it can get out of control, right? Do I believe that the government should be in charge? I'm not sure. I think the government has other duties. But I do think that there are a lot of brilliant minds out there that understand the consequences, and we should listen to them.
The question was tied to regulation. Regulations are created by authorities and government agencies. My take on the AI is I am a big advocate for democratizing AI. That's the first thing first. Like, let's AI be open to everyone. When we have it open, that means as a scientist, I don't want to do reverse engineering, but at least I know the building blocks. What are the risks? The problem today is some of the Gen AI models are black box. We don't even have white papers. Like, what are some core components? Are there any, like, what level they do reinforcement learning? At what level they do, like, feedback loops? And these can consume, like, the customer, like personal information, can consume the customer, understand the customer behavior, can also consume like IP data that is very, very sensitive, and what they do with it, how and when, and like, is it injected in retraining framework, and is it gonna help my competitor? Like, there is a fine line there. However, too much regulation is problematic. Like Europe, what we see in Europe, like, it is going to the extent where they want to unfold the box. They want to see how AI is making the decision, and this is part of explainable AI. And they end up like missing out on some core capabilities. Like, they don't have Llama available, for example, for as part of some core products. They have GDPR that is, be careful with the data. We have a copy of it, which is CCPA and CPRA as well. We try to get to that extent, but I am really worried as an AI scientist that the law is becoming more fragmented. To comply with all laws worldwide, maybe you should just give up on AI.
That wouldn't be good for you then, huh? Good question.
Yeah, I mean, on the regulation question, I think we're making the mistake already of regulating the technology and the implementation as opposed to the impact, which goes to your point. We shouldn't be regulating AI itself, and the things that the Biden administration released around tying it to compute and capacity, I think is a really bad model for regulation. So I think we're trying. I think it's necessary, but I think we're probably already too late, maybe even.
Yeah. Yeah. We can just like pretty much
It's out of the box.
yeah, just define some framework more than just regulate, and some scientists should be part of these initiatives to make sure we get enough freedom to fulfill our curiosity and to build like good technologies that will help us as a humankind. AI is helpful, like just across different domains. Like we can talk about like diagnosis and medical imaging. There are plenty of things you can do there to make our life better.
Okay, we have a question back here.
Hi, continuing down the AI conversation, a question I have is from a business side of it. How do you handle clients that come in, like you guys were saying earlier, keeping an eye on how you're using generative AI and things like that? How do you respond to your clients when you do not feel that it is the right approach for that solution? Because there are clients that have given pushback arguing otherwise in the past that I've seen. So I'm curious on your thoughts.
I mean, it's education is really where we start, I think, with that conversation. The shiny object syndrome that executives tend to get around things like AI, they're usually easily dispelled by talking about how much they would cost. So when you start putting dollars to it, they start to talk about, okay, what's the simpler solution? And that's when you can interject with, oh, great, that's where I wanted to go to begin with.
Yeah, giving multiple options to business partners, I think it's the right way to go. But in the meantime, like what JC was saying, is education, raising the awareness. Like I mentioned, is like business partners are not patient at all. Like they want 99% accuracy like tomorrow. But AI starts as a baby. It consumes data, it trains, gets better, and there are some edge cases we optimize on. We don't want to over-engineer. There are plenty of problems related to AI. It's still experimental work that requires training, that requires fine-tuning, calibration. There are lots of things. But what I would recommend is like upfront define the scope of work. What are some core AI capabilities you can leverage to solve the problem? Be upfront with business partners, and the golden like advice I give: never overpromise. When you talk about KPIs from business perspective, like pretty much define a line between KPIs on the business and model level accuracy. Don't mix them up. And when you pretty much promise on the model accuracy, start with 70%, 80%. Like start very conservative, because as they are impatient, they will be good at finding what doesn't work. Right there, and they will challenge you.
Well, but even that's a different way for a lot of business people to think, right? How often do you go to your boss and say, well, I can say that this is going to be 70% right? Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Not terribly often, right? So like I think this is a paradigm shift in business problem thinking more so than just a technology.
There's a risk, and they can, if this business leader or this person, this client can evaluate risk, and like you said, well, it's going to cost $4 billion and it's only going to be 70% accurate. Does that sound cool to you? You know, it's kind of about selling it and saying, you know, but I think that if you were to say it to one of these companies that are making a core product, they have a different perspective.
Yeah, never overpromise, never. Because the business are really good at finding edge cases, because they are the subject matter experts.
Hi, my name is Patricia. I just wanted to ask, as someone who's actively looking for a position at a new company, what are your expectations for someone joining your team? Like, how much should they know about AI? You see it everywhere in applications where it says like AI experience needed or wanted, but what does that mean for you in particular?
Good question. I think it's hard to say when you're being recruited and you're applying for. I guess some advice that I would give to you is take a look at the business and see what have they done with AI, right? If their core product implements AI, then you might want to probably, look it up a little bit. But if you come in and you're just like, oh, I know how to use this tool and this tool and this tool, that's actually the crux of what AI is. It's just taking, something, putting it in and getting output. I've helped with kind of recruitment on like the HR side. And, one of the candidates was like, yeah, I've used, ChatGPT to write like, job descriptions. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know if that's necessarily what you're talking about, how it's like specific knowing about AI. I haven't actually seen a lot of jobs like that.
Yeah, I don't think we don't ask for that. I think I would maybe turn the tables and say, well, what are you doing with AI?
That's a good
And if they don't have an answer for that, then it's the question or the criteria on the application or the job description is irrelevant.
Yeah, it depends what kind of position you're applying for, but two things I will highlight here is, first, be honest, saying, hey, I'm excited about this. As like hiring managers, we really care a lot about the learning curve, like how this person is excited about learning. Because at the end of the day, there is no a perfect candidate that like check mark all the bullet points. Be curious, show interest, show excitement, show like you are willing to learn. In the meantime, like I mentioned earlier, AI is not a choice, it's a necessity. Everyone should know at least at a high level how it works, because it will be embedded in each and every business processes. There are risks today, but that's the future.
Hello. Just a question to augment what she had asked, like regarding like where do you see in terms of the whole landscape of workforce of data analyst, data scientist, data engineer, data architect, software engineer, where is the most significant role and/or where is going to be the most significant role out of that, like 5 entities of people that are building AI out in the future and now?
I'm still a big believer in generalists. We, at my company, tend to optimize for people that are a little bit MacGyver-ish as opposed to focused on one of those things. So I think having some basic knowledge across the board is important, but none of those fields are going to go away. They're all going to go through some transition as AI matures, but none of them are going to go away. So I don't think you're making a bad bet anywhere there.
Maybe it will be more tactical and direct than JC, but even though I agree with him on the holistically, like there is like that like problem solving capacity and with business partners, gathering requirements, convert all of that to business case, it still will remain there. But we will see this is my prediction based on my experience and expertise in AI. We will see more testers, engineers, challenging AI and the code written by AI. This is going to be huge. We will witness the paradigm shift, more testers. Second is more prompt engineers. AI is becoming a lot abstracted than ever. We are making more sense of AI. We will need more folks to talk to AI in a good way, in optimized way to get the outcome we are looking for. It could be problem solving, it could be writing a code, it could be writing an email, could be anything. Testers and prompt engineers are going to be the core of the future workforce.
If you think about it, data science didn't exist 10 years ago. Those titles may disappear. But like you said, the core work will still be there. You'll still have these curious people that need to solve problems.
Hi, my name is Chris. So I'm a software developer, and I'm kind of sticking my neck out for my fellow juniors and people trying to break into the industry, but it feels like the job market is very saturated right now. There's not enough job roles, but there's a lot of CS students that are graduating that have difficult finding roles and stuff. And I think I was very fortunate that I came at the time I did, and I have 8 years of experience, but what would you recommend to anyone trying to break into the industry? What do you suggest? What do you look for?
Well, I would say kudos to you coming here and asking that question and actually thinking about those junior engineers. I do think that there's a level of empathy that people need to kind of express in the industry, because even though we type into computers, we're still connecting with others. I mean, personally, in my journey from, being a IT specialist to becoming a manager, it's really just giving people opportunities and being humble about those things. I think when you come out of a 4-year degree, or you're learning about computer science, you're being posed with a lot of challenges and you're trying to provide solutions to that are really not practical. And then they come out and they go, wow, I'm not going to do this job because it's not this title that I want it to be, or I don't want this. Encourage them to be humble, to think about it's a journey. You're not going to get that perfect job as soon as they come out, right? And there is a difference between, the different levels of engineers.
I would say fake it to make it is a good skill to learn. And I think specifically knowing when you can apply that as a strategy and when you shouldn't.
Yeah, just to add, there you go. I think that's the best advice so far. Being more realistic and down to earth. To answer your question is, sometimes as a software engineer, we expect to get that perfect software engineer job. Sometimes there is a starting point. I highly encourage junior software engineers to start at some point. It could be something related to software engineering. It could be a tester. It could be an analyst. And you will grow in your career and pretty much you achieve your goals. But in the meantime, you have to adapt to the shift we are witnessing, that we are living on daily basis. Acquire more skills, like what Brian was saying, acquiring more skills, learn more on the AI side, and you still can fake it at some extent.
Well, I mean, for me in my career, it was always just, capturing the opportunity that was put in front of me by my employer and not being shy of that. That's the best advice you can do is just jump in, say, I'm going to just try this. If you find yourself in an environment where that's not safe to do, then you probably should look for another job.
Yeah, so my question is, does AI affect the hiring process, or how does it affect it? For instance, if when someone goes through the technical interview process, and they have to show how they came about their code or explain their reasoning, is it something where it's just they did it, they know how to do it, that's great, then they'll be able to perform the job to get the task done? Or does it, because now are there going to be people that can show that they can do coding with AI, and they can do higher level programming, but are you going to ask do you understand this specific line of code, and how much do you weigh that on the evaluation?
So remember when our teachers told us that we weren't going to have a calculator in our pocket? We're in a very pivotal time where, to answer your question with software interviews, right? Most of the time it's trying to understand the thought process to come to the solution. And most of the time, it doesn't really matter how you do that unless it's a good solution. I don't know if that answers your question, but in my philosophy, it's I don't really care if you did that with AI. It's cool, might want to learn how you did it, but at the same time, we're here to solve problems. And if you can solve a problem that way, okay.
But on the hiring front, no, I consumed the entire battery. On the hiring part is what you're looking for is not to write a perfect code that you can compile at the spot. But what we're looking for is, first is dedication, the fact that you showed up, you're interested, you're willing to write code. This is good, because when you start working, you will show up from 8 to 5. There is some psychological aspect of it. The second part is problem-solving skills. It's very important as an engineer, the way you reflect, the way you approach the problem, the way you enumerate solutions, the way you just you frame, you decompose the problem into sub-functions. All this stuff help us a lot to understand where you are at and what are the coaching needed to take you to the next level, where you will be a good contributor at a larger scale and help you to grow. That's the way we approach that.
Just an anecdote, one time we had an applicant fill out our coding challenge, and we say in there you can do it in any language, programming language you want, and they chose to do it in Excel, and it was the best thing ever. And they ended up, we hired them. They ended up being a great engineer, but they chose to do it in something that they weren't super familiar with, in a way that nobody else would have. And then they admitted, I'm a really bad user interface designer, and a spreadsheet is a great generic UI that's already there. So, I think companies
that's fascinating. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Kriti. So I just wanted to circle back to what Fahad was saying about companies using Gen AI or engineers using Gen AI and LLM for asking questions, writing code, getting more enhanced solutions. But I was wondering that there is, when companies have to do this, they have to send data. And there is some level of data retention, even though companies are using private models. But every data that we send to LLMs and Gen AI acts as a training and testing data. So what do you have to say about it? Like, how is this mitigated with companies that are taking up LLM and Gen AI projects?
There is always a risk between leveraging generative AI, but the less risk is having private models hosted on premise or in the cloud in a private environment. It helps a lot to protect the IP piece of it, because when you feed your data, you expose pretty much what even your thought process. Now, these LLMs are capable of what you call chain of thought or chain of thought. They know even how you think. Now, be more cautious having what we call guardrails, having some level of filtering layer where you extract informations that are like IP or informations that are there is some personal information or but on the coding piece, a code is also proprietary, right? The way you write codes, the way you frame a code, the way you design a framework to develop a code is considered as an IP as well. Some companies they gotta be open to accelerate the development, but in the meantime, there is a trade-off between security, safety, and protection of IP versus what outcome I'm looking for.
Yeah, I can actually state we're actually going through this right now. I'm working with the legal, security, and our team, IT, trying to put into these guardrails, right? So everybody can kind of just go out and use their personal ChatGPT, Perplexity, Microsoft Copilot. So the security manager and I are actually developing a policy that employees need to abide by, where we can then mix security controls on the computers to prevent them from going to those sites and only going to an approved LLM, like he's saying, a private hosted one or one that is regulated. So then at least we can mitigate the risk from the human as opposed to, the control itself. But I think that, this is a very difficult thing for organizations to get a grasp on.
Absolutely.
I mean, shadow IT has always been a problem, right? And I think AI is just creating another layer
of complexity.
But ultimately, I think if you don't, policy is really important. Some level of enforcement is important. But if you don't trust your employees, you don't trust your team to understand when to apply technology, that's a bigger problem, I think.
And also training too. So I mean, one of the things security managers are trying to do is we're trying to find, and if anybody else knows out there of some generative AI trainings that can be published and shared, we'd love to look at it, because there isn't a lot right now of training employees and people on what best practices are.
By the way, I'm writing a book on how to develop safe, secure, and scalable generative AI in the context of and hosting at the corporate level. And what does it mean from business perspective? There is, like I said, as the law is fragmented, but there is no common framework, a design pattern that we can leverage off the shelf to make sure LLMs are safe, are secure. You put as much guardrails as you want, but these models are toxic. These models sometimes are unfair. This model is poisonous. You can inject any prompt and it turns completely the thought process of the LLM. You have to be really, really cautious, and we don't want any unfairness or vulnerability of these LLMs. But still an open topic. Nobody can answer directly what's the best approach. I'm working on a framework. I'm writing a book on that. Hopefully, this is going to serve as, like you said, as a guideline for what are the best practices to make sure we are adding value to the business, embedding, harnessing AI and Gen AI. In the meantime, it's safe, secure, and scalable because it gets really costly too when you host your own private LLM.
Yeah, I just wanted to, just make a comment. Just, I think that sometimes we're overly cautious or concerned about AI like changing every single thing, but the reality is that, just with that last comment about, oh, well, making sure that you don't share data with the AI. Well, before AI came out, people were asking questions on Stack Overflow, right? You have to be able to know how to redefine your question to make it generic enough where you're not sharing proprietary data. This is something that you have to be able to do no matter if it's AI or non-AI. And I just think that, sometimes we have to think about the macro versus always just looking at any specific problem.
Well, that's a really good point in that even Stack Overflow, as an engineer, you have to look at that and be your skill of discernment of saying, is this answer right? And how do I incorporate it into my solution? AI is not going to be able to connect that last mile of that thought process, just like it didn't, Stack Overflow didn't. So I think viewing it as a tool that can only take you so far, but can take you that far maybe a little faster, is to me, the appropriate way of thinking about AI in the developer tool space right now.
With line of thought, when you say ask a generic enough question, you get your answer, but you don't expose. Asking the right question to AI, there is no a science behind it. It's becoming an art, right? What's the art of asking the right question while being sneaky to some extent to don't expose, but you get the answer you want? And that's going back to what Brian's saying is there's no guideline that tells you for this a scope of questions for this software engineering core functions, ask or create prompts this way. Would love to have that, but I totally agree with you. There is some training needs to happen. There is some level of awareness, but we are still making a progress in defining how these prompts should be crafted to make sure they are safe and protect the data.
Hi, this is Shobit over here. So I would like to circle back to the question that you told that AI should be more secure and secure for everyone. It's a very toxic model, right? One thing which comes straight out of my mind is, as you said, to democratize AI, to make it probably open source. That's what I gained from that conversation. My question to you is, if it's made open source, because OpenAI was open source initially, right? And how do you maintain control over the project, over that particular model project? And at the same time, how will you foster the community into the right ethical way, right? That should be it.
The beauty of open source community is you can tune the model to your business, to your use case. Now, sharing all these models, democratizing AI, these models are equipped with what you call common sense, common knowledge. But this knowledge is not applicable in the context of Hero versus other use cases, other applications that are really complex in healthcare, merchandising, etc. I strongly believe democratizing AI will help a lot to have variety of models. And now models are becoming smaller. There are distillation processes that are shrinked. It helps a lot to manage the cost versus fine-tune these models in effective way to adapt them to your use case. When you adapt them to your use case and host them privately, you solve half of the problem of safety and toxicity and fairness and all the above questions.
Fuad, you talked earlier about how
testers and AI prompt engineers are going to be rising career fields, right?
Correct.
But AIs are already being applied to those very fields. So in 20 years, how many jobs do you really think are going to be out there?
That's a good human brain will still the key driver of economy, will still the key driver of a problem solving. We didn't reach yet AGI, artificial general intelligence, where AI can do everything. If you look at this LLMs, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper here. If you look at LLMs, LLM is matricial operation at scale. It doesn't have inference process that reflect and reason like a humankind. It's still, that's why it has a lots of limitations, it has a lots of vulnerability as well. Now, but in the future, as we are making a progress with AI, as we are developing more accurate, better accurate capabilities, for sure there will be a shift in the job market, in the labor market. But when I say testers, we will never use adversarial AI. What does it mean is we will never let AI challenge other AI. Because there's a lack of test for both. We want to make sure there is a human behind who is calibrating, human in the loop, like assessing the quality of the results and this defining and designing the right benchmark and testing to challenge AI for different applications. I strongly believe adversarial that's what we call, like where we have AI agent challenging another agent. We are using it today, but it's not effective, and it will never be effective because these AIs can start talking to each other, can start like developing internal language, and can define some even more sophisticated language that can be way more harmful than we think. You get the point?
I mean, at the end of the day, we are the ones that are controlling the computers
Yeah.
today. So yeah, 20 years from now, it could be that, you know, we're entering a sci-fi. But I really think what you're saying is very intriguing because, and what you asked, because, you know, if the AI is training the other AI,
Yeah.
doesn't it come down to how the humans interpret the results? But computers don't use money. Money is only for
Yeah.
humans.
Hey, boss, we can use an AI to train our AI, or you can pay somebody $150 grand a year to do that.
That's true. That's true. I mean,
But there will be equilibrium. There is some beside like AI-driven like regulations. There is what we call AI human coexisting regulations. How to coexist with AI in a workplace. I will take it to the next level. Maybe you'll reflect on it tonight. We will have ID for AI. What do you think about it? ID? Now, as AI in the future, we will have what you call an agent AI. Agents are like as smart as humans, dedicated to a specific task. You'll have a bunch of this agent, but this agent will pretty much have a digital ID as employees. You don't believe that? It will happen, like coexisting with the humans in the same work environment.
This is where my agnosticism comes in.
but once we unplug them, they don't do anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for just one more question, and then you guys can ask any follow-up with the remainder of the time that we have the room.
Hi, I'm Pavni. I kind of had the same question. So once my professor asked the class, do you see AI replacing humans in the job market? And you kind of addressed that. And at that point of time, we gave our responses, and I could say excuses as to why it cannot. But I would like to know your thoughts. I know that you addressed this, but yeah.
My answer is yes. If that's the question, is AI going to replace some jobs? Yes, it will. There are jobs that will go away.
Yes.
There are jobs that will be created. There are jobs that will have to morph to change the way that they do their work. All of that is going to be, I think, in flux at some level. But it really, I think, comes back to what we started the conversation with, which is like, don't just go after a career in AI because it's the flashy thing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and it's gonna give you
find
security
something-
and-
Yeah.
Find something that has some purpose behind it, and if AI is part of that thing, then
I can
Go ahead.
I don't think so. And I want to give a contrasting opinion here because I've built my whole career in IT. And what IT does is it bridges the gap between technology and humans. Flesh, blood, like brain, right? Like that human to human interaction, when we stopped caring about having this here, then we'll let the computers take over. Because today I do believe in love and human interaction, okay? So that's my opinion, right? And I do believe that I don't think that necessarily some jobs will be taken over, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just kind of my opinion.
I sit like in the middle. That means I have.
You are sitting in the middle.
50-50. Like my answer will be like pretty much like halfway. I would repurpose your answer is, will AI augment the way we do our work? Yes. Let's not get afraid of AI. It's gonna make our work better, more fun, more pleasant. Instead of doing repetitive, boring tasks, that's where we will hand it over to AI. Like that's where JC said, like some jobs. He said some jobs, repetitive, boring jobs maybe will be replaced by AI agent that has ID, employee ID. The other side of the story, what Brian was saying is, there is that human element that is missing there. AI can be as empathetic as a human. And if you ask me, what are the best qualities of a manager? First is, a good manager is a good human. Because you feel, you interact with your team members, you meet them in the middle of the ground. You have to care about them. You have to make them feel they are good. They're doing something big. They have to be part of the vision. That's how we create like best-in-class culture, where everybody feel part of the mission. We are not there yet. AI is not empathetic yet.
It can make you think it is, though.
To some people, yes.
I think there's a lot of fear and hype about AI around job security, and I guess my question that I often ask people when they bring this topic up is, well, what would you do differently today if you knew in 5 years AI was going to take your job away, right? Like and I think it's a worthwhile question to ask, but it's not a trigger for freaking out.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Right, that was such a great conversation. Thank you to our panelists for being here today and everyone who attended. We have the next 30 minutes, so feel free to continue networking and ask any follow-up questions to our panelists. But thank you all again for being here.